Joining me now is Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes and One Nation's candidate I mentioned earlier at the top of the show for the seat of Chifley, Tony Nikolic. Great to see you both. Now, I want to talk about this interview on 3AW in Melbourne, where the Teachers for Palestine body have made clear their wish to fundamentally alter how our children learn about Anzac Day in the classroom. Have a listen.
We want to teach children beyond the mythology. We want to give them information about what the original Anzacs were actually involved in, including burning villages, burning dwellings, breaking up protests, breaking up public meetings, banning propaganda, and whipping and lashing people.
So, Hollie, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this latest endless politicisation of arguably or definitely our most sacred day?
Look, I don't know who Lucy Honan is when she's at home, but I can tell you if my kids went to the school where she taught, they wouldn't be there for much longer. And I can tell you these Teachers for Palestine, they need to be very upfront, every single principal of every single school around this country, that if they are adopting this sort of ridiculous ideology into their schools, it's teaching self-hatred to our children. It's taking away pride in being Australian, in our country, in our defence force, for the men and women who have fought for our country. I mean, these people are beyond stupid. They don't understand the context of what was going on at all. I mean, what a shock they're coming out of Melbourne. I mean, nothing is less surprising. It's still the land of Danistan down there, but it is abhorrent. Thankfully, my kids are in high school now, but to anyone whose kids are in primary school, I would be finding out from your school principal if they've adopted this resource, if they are adopting this embracing of political ideology into a classroom, because it's absolutely disgraceful.
I think we need a serious rethink of the education curriculum and so on. But Tony, I wanted to ask you, at the top of the show, I spoke about the revelations coming out of Danistan, as Hollie rightly called it, about the fact that Melbourne's lockdown, nighttime curfews, there was no specific scientific basis behind it. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show that you were one of the bravest people during COVID, Tony. You fought for people who lost their jobs, who were kicked out of long careers. You fought for them, you stood up and you fought. You're a very brave man, and well done for doing that. You're now running in the seat of Chifley against Ed Husick. Yes. What do you make of these COVID stories that are now coming out? There wasn't scientific basis for this particular instance, the night curfews in Melbourne.
Indeed, and as you know, I've been saying this from the start. There was no scientific evidence backing them from the start. What we've seen in Melbourne, in New South Wales, for example, no state of emergency was ever declared. That was because the science wasn't there. I wrote a letter on the 7th of July 2021 to ministers all around Australia indicating that the science just was not there. And this is support for that. And as I said previously, truth is knowledge held back by power. That information needs to come out, it needs to get to the public so we can run a full and frank inquiry.
Now tell me about your campaign. You're running for One Nation in the western suburbs of Sydney, seat of Chifley. Yes. How's it going and what's your pitch?
Well, over there, what we're going to try and do out there is we need to bring integrity to the people of Western Sydney. Unfortunately, under Ed Husick, we're seeing a monopolised type of Labor system out there. We need to get in there and bring truth and transparency to that area. We're seeing that right now. I am out there, I'm engaging with the public on a daily basis, handing out how to vote cards. I think the One Nation policy out there is really appealing because people need to see change and they want to see change, and there are some really good policies out there, and I just think we need to get in there and amongst that crowd a little bit more.
Hollie, I want to go back to the COVID lockdowns. The night curfews did not have scientific medical basis behind it. Are you surprised, Hollie?
Not at all. I mean, I remember talking to one of your colleagues, James Morrow, during the whole COVID saga, and the fact that when you were at the pub, you could drink sitting down but not standing up. And we thought, I remember he and I laughing at one point that this virus was very snaky in the way that it infected you. You were safe sitting down but not standing up. It was insanity on steroids in the way things operated. The fact, and I referred to Danistan, socialist governments are only ever a short step away from totalitarianism. And a lot of these state premiers were getting very, very close to embracing those kind of ideologies in the way that they were controlling every single part of the message, locking down their people. The mental health damage that was done to Victorians is still evident from those lockdowns, and people from Victoria will still discuss with you how traumatic it was. The fact that that virus didn't seem to be able to transmit when the sun was up, but as soon as the sun went down, it's very dangerous. This was the moronicness. I mean, when we were in Canberra trying to pass legislation, we had to quarantine for 2 weeks, sit for 2 weeks. None of us could leave for the week in between because you couldn't quarantine in time again, to then go back for 2 weeks. But the ACT Health Department said if you stayed in an Airbnb rather than quarantine in a hotel, their quarantine hotels, you had to stay there for the entire 7 weeks. And I remember asking Greg Hunt, going, well, what is the logic here? You know, if you're in a quarantine
Exactly.
And Greg actually said to me, I got no idea. I got nothing on that one. I mean, these states and territory governments were wild with their growth.
Well, between you and me, Hollie, I think there are a lot more things to yet come out, and I hope they do come out.
I mean,
but
look at the polls. Sorry, if you look at the polls, we're on the verge of electing another, this socialist federal government back in. And I mean, what do you think this Labor government, particularly in an alliance with the Greens, how much do you think they would, jump at the chance to lock us down at any opportunity, to limit political messaging, to have control? I mean, this is a reality. And what happened in Victoria could happen much more broadly nationwide once you've got socialists at the helm.
So let me pick you up on that, Tony. The Labor government, the threat of a Labor government. How do you see the threat of a Labor government, particularly as it's relevant to Rooty Hill and the areas that you are hopefully representing?
Well, I see a slow transition towards, as Hollie's alluding to, a transition towards some sort of an oppressive regime. We're just heading that way, unfortunately, and we've seen a good example of what happened down there in Victoria. And as you know, One Nation has a COVID inquiry on the table as one of its policies, and if the Liberal Party were to come and join on that, I actually think there's a really good chance that we could knock a lot of this off and perhaps even turn the government around. And I just think, just adding to what Hollie said, the absurdity of what was going on, we couldn't go to church or any place of religion, and we could go to a brothel. This, yes. How is this?
And parts of Western Sydney had bizarre rules.
Absolutely, you couldn't sit down. You had to sit down. You couldn't stand up, and this was the absurdity of it. And I just think that's moral bankruptcy by some of the premiers, and especially Dan Andrews. I think what we need to do is have that full and frank inquiry. I think if everyone got behind the One Nation policy, this is what we really need here.
I've been calling for a royal commission into COVID from the day it all began. Hollie, just quickly on a lighter note, this is fairly amusing, but Dan Andrews has reportedly been blacklisted from an elite Melbourne golf club after using a friend to sneak him into membership of the club. Maybe the chooks do eventually come home to roost, Hollie.
Oh, he's such a man of the people, isn't he? I'm sure there's plenty of public golf courses that would welcome Dan Andrews, but you couldn't play golf in Victoria. Probably one of the sports you could have played outside in your 2 hours a day that you were allowed to exercise out on a golf course. There's no bigger space that you could be in a lot of the time. And yet, you could go to a brothel, but you couldn't hit a golf ball. And I think, Dan Andrews, you were focusing on the wrong kind of balls.
Okay, we'll leave it on that note. Hollie Hughes and Tony Nikolic running there in the seat of Chifley.
Thank you.
Good luck there.